Okay, so this is a gathering, a representation of upcoming freshman, sophomore high school students. So here we are. Now, if you just listen to me, you're so excited because we're gonna do the same thing, kind of again. Kind of. I'm gonna go different, but we're gonna do the similar thing. So since we're talking about our kids, we want to hear from the Lord about it. It's easy to filter discussion through, well, scar tissue. I don't know what else you could call it. You just get a little slash, you get a little bit of poke, you get a little bit of air out of your balloon thinking about the future. But so we reject false optimism. We're not going to name it and claim it for our kids. And we're not going to be crusty because the Lord has real promises for each one of our kids. So I'm going to read a couple Psalm verses. I'm going to pray. So Psalm 112 says, "How joyful are those who fear the Lord. How joyful are those who delight in obeying his commands. Their children will be successful everywhere. An entire generation of godly people will be blessed." So when we're looking at our kids, we're looking at them not just with our own eyes. We're looking at them with the eyes of a bigger Father who sees and intends for our children to be a great blessing. Another translation says they will be mighty in the land. So we're fighting, we're holding, we're reaching, not just out of our own optimism, not just, oh, look how cool they're going to be. It's going to be God has an intention for them. And for those who fear him and who delight in his ways, their children will be successful. They will be mighty. We're holding on to that. Another one similar is Psalm 128. So you may imagine you're an ancient Israelite. You're on your way to Jerusalem. This is a song that you sing on the way when the marble glinting in the distance starts to catch your eye as you come up the mountains. You say, how joyful are those who fear the Lord. There's joy, regardless of the up and downness of our experience. The undercurrent of a Christian's life is joy. And part of that joy includes the ability to enjoy the fruit of your labor. How joyful and prosperous you will be. Your children, again, as part of the Lord's blessing, will be like a fruitful grapevine flourishing within your home. They sit around your table. There's a connectedness that our children will have with each other as we follow the Lord. There's a vigor, an energy, a productivity, and a growth that they'll have from the Lord. It says this is the blessing for those who fear. So I want to take that and we're going to ask the Lord to speak to us about our kids because we want to hear what he says. And he has things for us. He has things for them. He's got things for us. So we're going to go for it a little bit. Father, we recognize that we're called by your name and we're bound together as a family, recognizing that you have things for us. You have things for our children. And we do. We ask that you'd give us the eyes to see it just over and over and over again, over and over again. God, when we're shaking them to wake up, when we're asking them to pick that stuff up, when we're asking them whatever, Lord, you have something for them. They will be the mighty ones. They'll be the excellent ones. Lord, they'll be vigorous and strong, productive, growing. Lord, thank you for our children. Thank you for them. We say that they're a blessing, Lord, and we do want to hear your words about them as we just sit and think about how they should go and what we should do to help them get there. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Okay, so again, apologies to those of you that have heard me already. I'm going to go much shorter. We're not going to do the article. But we are engaged in the great work of education. And education involves the whole self because when Jesus was asked to summarize the whole will of God for human beings, he was sitting there in a debate with some Sadducees wrangling over resurrection. What about the marriage to the seventh brother? Ha, ha, ha. And Jesus is like, slam dunk. Okay, body slam, you're down. I win. Then somebody's like, wow, that was an impressive response. Jesus, this man obviously knows what he's talking about. So he's like, teacher, so out of all the commandments, everything that the Lord has told his people in the law and the prophets, judge for us. What's the most important? And then Jesus says, the most important is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And then the clincher, there is no other commandment greater than these. And then Matthew has him recording as well, that he says, all the law and the prophets hang on these. So here's Jesus with an intimate knowledge of the scriptures, a heart-connected understanding. You know, like it's possible to read the scriptures and pull wrong things out, but Jesus understood them from the inside out, the whole thing. And he's like, look, I'll tell you, if you want to understand the whole will of God for your life, it's to love him with everything you have. He's told you nothing except that hinges on that, and to love your neighbor as yourself. Everything is that. So when we're talking about our task of education, we cannot say it's anything other than reaching with all of our might for that, to love God with everything we have, and to turn to our neighbor and to love them like we would love ourselves. So I said it before, I want to say it again. We have to shift our goal. If you look at the prayers of Paul at the beginning of all his letters, what is he reaching for the churches? Can you imagine yourself, you know, fast forward, your kids are grown, they're starting work. Like, what's the thing that's going to make your heart swell? Like John, it's appropriate for a father to have joy and delight. The Proverbs speak of it. John says, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the faith. What's going to swell our hearts with that God-given pride and joy? That they got a good job. It's part of it. That they married well, that they're upwardly mobile and successful, that they're taking care of themselves. How's it going with the Lord? They're doing okay. No, what's going to swell our hearts is that they're following the ways of the Lord. What are we aiming for in our education? Is it the killer transcript that's going to let them get into whatever college and look how cool they are? Or is it that they are organizing their whole life to love God and to love their neighbor? And Jesus has said it plainly what our mission is. He even says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world? You could be Elon Musk and to lose his own soul. He says you can lose your soul, though you gain the whole world, and it's worthless. So what are we aiming for in our education? Bottom line, love God, love our neighbor. And so that means that education must incorporate more than academics. We want rigorous academics because part of our calling is to instill or to give our kids a pair of glasses. We want them to habitually see the world like the Lord himself would see the world. When they turn to their friend, then we want them seeing not as the world may see, but as the Lord may see. When they turn to their work and their job, then their family, their requirements, themselves, what should they see? They should see what the Lord sees. And that requires massive amounts of input, reflection, back and forth, conversation, relationship. It's work to instill, to give them a pair of glasses. But that's intellectual formation. It also includes things like their habits. How do they spend their time? Do they have self-control? Because you may know the right thing to do, but if everything that's been put into your belly says go right and the Lord says go left, then you're having to fight against yourself. You know, in early, there was a guy named Francis de Sales. Do you know him? He wrote a book called An Introduction to the Devout Life. And it's an interesting book because he wrote it not for monks, but for married people. So most of the spiritual formation material in the early church was written for monks, people that don't have a family. But he wrote one for family. And he says, you know, your spiritual life can be compared to one of three kinds of birds. You can, well, maybe he said two, I don't know. I can't think of the third one, so we'll say two. You know, you could, well, I'll make up one. You could be you can be like the penguin, you don't fly. Or you can be the chicken or the turkey. Your spirit is alive, so there is some flight, but you're kind of like just bouncing. At times you hit a wind and you're like, woo, and then you're like, boom. He says, or you can be like the eagle who catches the winds and stays aloft. So what kind of spiritual life, what kind of habits, like are you fighting yourself constantly to do what you know is right, but don't truly love or don't have a habit of doing? Or are you cultivating a kind of life that is given over to the Lord all the way through and through, and the process that it takes to get there, because we're all kind of messed up. So the Lord's taken all the chickens and turkeys and giving them some jetpacks. So praise the Lord. Okay, so our job is not simply academics. Our job is the formation of a whole person. And so I just wanted to talk about some of the different requirements that we have as kids transition in the upper school. Yeah, please.
So you weren't here the last meeting, you didn't miss it, you weren't supposed to be here, but he went through that whole packet I just gave you on educating in virtue. So you guys can go through that in your review.
Yeah.
So he's kind of,
It's important.
that's in the background.
It's in the background. Sorry. So the upper school is split into 3 sections. Okay. In the 7th and 8th grade, we're transitioning children into adulthood. You know, so it's like in almost every culture except for ours, and this time there was kid and there's adult. And then there was something that would separate the two, like you gotta, eat this mushroom and go in the woods for 3 days and you come back once you got your spirit animal. Or you in the Jewish tradition, for example, when you're age 13, you would become a son of the law. You would have a bar mitzvah, son of the law. And then you would be proclaimed responsible now to uphold all the laws of God as an individual. You are a responsible person. Or in some like island Polynesian place, as soon as you can pilot a boat and you get married and you have a family because you're a boatman now, you can do the canals and you can do that. Or whatever, Catholic tradition, there's, you become of the age of accountability, you transition. So there's like these things. We don't have a lot of that. So what we have to do then is to say, okay, we're going to acknowledge your growing independence and desire for freedom, and the simultaneous need to develop the habits and skills of that with freedom and responsibility. So here, up in the lower school, kindergarten, you help them zip up their coats. Here, we ask you to help zip up somebody else's coat. Okay, because come on, it's time. You can find your paper. Please find paper. So it's like, okay, how do we transition this? And so we have a few policy things and just a perspective as a staff that we want to share with you. I'm going to read it, a quote from C.S. Lewis, if I can find it. It comes from the end of Prince Caspian. You guys know that story? Okay, so it's at the end of Prince Caspian, and some of the defeated bad guys are given a choice. They can go back to where they came from. And Caspian, who is descended from some of these bad guys, is like, what? Yikes, I had no idea. I was like thuggery, in my background. And then Aslan comes to this with this genius quote, and he says, you come of the Lord Adam and the Lady Eve, and that is both honor enough to erect the head of the poorest beggar, and to shame enough to bow the shoulders of the greatest emperor on earth. Be content. Be content. So what are we looking at when we look at the gangly thing called a teenager? We're looking at a breathtaking flower of great promise, an eternal being capable of unending glory, passion, and power, because they bear God's image, and there is no mitigating that. There's no stepping that out. They are the image of God as individuals, and collectively they form our brothers and sisters into one body, who is the body of the Messiah. So they are that. They also are in formation. They're still in the oven. All the ingredients are present, but they're still cooking. They're not done. So we have to communicate two things to them. In the staff, we try to cultivate this. And when you're in the upper school, you are a responsible young man and young woman. You are a leader. You step outside of this room and you go and you read with other kids, you help other kids, you play with other kids. So we say, we have a desire for your freedom. We want you to have the full measure of freedom that we enjoy as men and women. And we have a desire for your responsibility and initiative. Who has the most freedom except the one who carries the most responsibility? So if you think of your kids, think of whoever, and who are you most comfortable letting them do what they want? It's the ones that you know will answer for the other people in their care. We read an article earlier, and he had this really amazing statement. He says, you know your kids are grown up, not when they can take care of themselves, but when they can take care of somebody else, and they actually want to. So they can, and they want to. So for the kids, this translates into a rule. It's an unstated rule sometimes, but it's a rule that we aim for. And the rule is, don't do anything for them that they can do for themselves. So we don't want to rob them of the opportunity, and it's a chance for them to grow. So if we're doing things for them that they can do, we're taking from them. We don't want to do that. We want to give them the full opportunity to fall down and scrape their knee, because that same opportunity is the opportunity to cross the finish line as a winner. So if you're running, then we can't hold their hand the whole time. We have to let them go and run the race. And so it's a little micro race now, because the race will extend out to when they're married, to when they're working their job, to when they're doing their thing. And if we can give them those mini races now, where you did fall down, or you know what, you just sat down on the sideline, you didn't even do it, then okay, well, we're going to help you get back up, and we're going to do it. Or if you fall down, whatever. And so we're trying to form policies that communicate this to them. Look, we want you to run yourself. Look, when you're in the upper school, I'm not going to make you do anything. I have other things to do with my time besides strong arm you into doing something that you hate anyway. But if you don't want to do it and you can't summon yourself to do it, then what are you doing? And why are you doing it? If this is not what you should be doing, why we got to learn Greek, why we got to do this, why we got to do this, you don't have to. Talk to your parents. They don't want to waste their money. They don't want to waste your time. But you need to know what you are going to do. And you better start doing it, because you don't have a lot of time. You got to figure this thing out, if that's what you're saying. Let's do this together. And the upper school, we talked to them at the beginning of the year, and they said, we're not drill sergeant enlistee. We're comrades at arms, linking arms. We're running together. I'm not a drill sergeant. I just don't do good like that. But what I can do is promise that I'm running after this stuff. That's what I'm going to do. And I want you to run with me. Our teachers, as a staff, we're running after the Lord. That's our mission too, is to love the Lord. And we're going to do it in algebra this year. And believe me, the Lord loves algebra. He made it. It's part of his flowering soul, so he loves all the subjects, and so can we. So let's go for it together, so I'm not dragging anybody. We're running. And if you get tired and fall down, we'll pick you up. But if you're not, but we're running, we're going for this thing together. We're going to do it. We want you to have freedom, to not just to know the standard, like I said before, but to love the standard. What does the Lord require of us? To love him. Everything we've got. Okay. And we want to cultivate responsibility. So that looks like, if you don't know, we have a policy as school-wide that allows students to redo assignments and tests and quizzes as often as needed to achieve mastery. And it's a good policy because we believe in real mastery. It's also a good policy that once you hit upper school, to begin to taper that down and taper it off. Because many things that they'll experience are one-shot opportunities. And if you don't show up ready, you lost it. You lost it. You're not going to get another chance at that interview. So if you didn't think of questions beforehand, it's over. You lost it. You can try another job maybe. You can still learn another place, another way, but that one's gone. So there'll be another paper, but in the 7th grade, when they're still kind of, little, then we say, okay, you got more opportunities to redo things and to try again and to still just keep going, buddy. And then, but as you get older and you're 18 and a hardened warrior, battle sage, then you're like, no, okay, January 7th, it's due. If you don't have it, then we're going to kick you out of school and we're going to erase your names from the books. It's like you're done. And they're like, oh, it's too late. Okay, no, not really. But the idea is we're going to have bigger flexibleness, kind of teacher by teacher, subject by subject, and we kind of taper it down because, for example, if you have, like I said before, a multi-week project as a businessman, and then you're feeling a little bit snuffly, or you're feeling a little bit tired, you get up and then you go do it because it's time to do it. You can't just miss because you're a little bit tired and sick. So we're going to say, look, if you got a paper, it's due. You need to get it there. It was due that day, and you're going to make it happen because that's the kind of man, that's the kind of woman you want to be. I want to help you do that. So redo policy. The other thing is we are introducing some non-academic type requirements for our students. It's normal in schools to have things like PE. It's normal in school to have things like Christian schools to have like chapel and stuff. But we are afforded a really special opportunity because traditionally a school is a close partnership between families and teachers. There's communication that's easy to happen. There's communication of shared values, shared commitments. Like that statement from Jesus is something that we all ascribe to. So we can unite ourselves and organize a whole life education a little bit differently, or maybe a little bit more creatively than a state-run machine. So what we're going to say is to help bring organization and structure in these different categories, we're asking for different kinds of non-academic requirements. For example, fitness and health. Over a 36-week year, we're asking for a total of 18 hours. This will be starting next year, 18 hours of some kind of activity log. That can be anything from walking your dog for 20 minutes this time to playing football in the front yard with my friends or my brothers, or it can be I play soccer 7 days a week anyway. It can be whatever. If you got karate lessons, you do karate. If you're a gymnast, you do gymnastics. If you're, Krav Maga, Muay Thai, kickboxing, whatever, then you do that stuff. If you're a cage fighter. So just, are you doing something intentionally to cultivate your body? Because the Lord did not make us a brain in a jar to plug into a computer. We interact with the world through our strength and through our bodies. So are we cultivating that or not? The strength of our family is literally the strength of each individual person. How hard can you work? How hard can you go? When do you crash? When do you give up and give out because everybody's just tired or sick? So we want to actually have a habit of cultivating strength, body strength. The other thing is a requirement for public worship. As a school, we recognize a triangle of responsibility. The family. So you guys, there's 4 levels of government that the Lord's created. There's self-government. You run yourself in a way that nobody else does. Then the Lord created a family government that has certain responsibilities, including education is a family responsibility because Paul told fathers, educate your children. And welfare, he says, if there's a widow in your family, you need to take care of her. It's not the church's job and it's not the government's job. There's a family government. So self-government, family government, which is what we're talking about here. Then there's church government, the overseeing of souls. So then we partner with the church. And as a school, we're a voluntary institution that people will come in or come out of. The Lord has not ordained schools, just like the Lord has not ordained businesses directly. The fourth one, in case you want the complete list, is the civil government. But the idea is that we are a serving partner thing to help accomplish this and to help accomplish this. The church has a teaching mission. The family has a teaching mission. So we're the Indian phone bank that you can outsource to. Praise the Lord. So that's our job, is to kind of hold this. And so what we say when we're asking for a requirement of public worship, we're just acknowledging that we cannot and will not accomplish the goal of a whole life, love God, love people education, apart from a much more intense than what we're asking, engagement with public worship and the people of God. So what we're saying is, please do 2 events, and events is so loosely defined that you can do almost anything per 6 weeks. And we're just going to ask for a log to be kept. We're not going to, it's not like going to be write it up and describe it. It's just like, I did Bible study for 4 hours on Sunday morning with my family because my dad sings songs and he's awesome, or whatever. Or it's going to be, I went to youth group. And so it's just 2 things, whatever the things are. You press play on an Adventures in Odyssey and Purpose to all be in the room. And so it works, it's like just 2 group activities aimed at Jesus with other people, okay, 6 weeks. So we're asking for these kinds of non-academic commitments to recognize that our goal is not just a transcript, right? Our goal is what? A whole life aimed at loving God and loving people, okay? Other things include a time management course in all 3 of these sections, a money management course, and we'll unfold those things more. I'm just giving you guys kind of the overview. There's going to be like typing skills. Like you need to have your license or you can't graduate. You can't graduate if you can't drive. What are you going to do? Stuff like this. You've got to have these kind of things in place. And so there'll be little requirements kind of like this, and there'll be different ways the families that you can satisfy them. Like if you like Dave Ramsey, or you need a budget or whatever, or we'll organize something for school in case you don't have a preference, but there'll be different ways for you to satisfy some of these things, just so that we can help organize, again, serving your family's mission and serving the church's mission of having men and women come out that are able to do things. Like, what happens if your car breaks? You're going to ask your dad, okay, and then what? Can you actually call the place and set it up and drop it off and then figure out how to get back, by yourself, or can you, whatever, do you have a bank account? Things like that.
So
yeah.
Some of this stuff too has happened as we've graduated some people, and including like Aiden. And it's really interesting, like the things that you count is what, even if it's just something you do normally in your life, but like the things like, hey, count how many times, like it's actually, so you kind of put value, not just, we wanted to as a school say, if your parents are having you go to church every Sunday or be in youth group or doing, family Bible study, like that counts. And so what you write down, what you count actually gives value to it. It gives like, more, and we wanted to like say this is valuable because we know that all of you guys are doing stuff like this. But it's part of our partnership to come along and say, this counts for your life. And even when you leave your family unit, like this is something that everybody who knew you counted as worthy and helpful for your life, and so, like making the appointments, one of the things when they're and taking college was like, we want to say, you have to go and take the first step to go to a writing lab and ask a tutor for help. It's all free services there. Go ask them, like we want to have those things so that they do it under our covering and as a requirement. And then when they don't have to, they're like, it's not the first time I had to do it, so we're trying to have some of those things so that they can do them here with our help.
Yep.
And so that when they you know, are at home and going to college or whatever they're doing, it's like they've done some of these things and it's not their first time trying to do it.
I think I'm doing these numbers right. Is that right? I'll make it up. Let's say it's 18, 17, 18, 15, 16, 13, 14, is that right?
Some 12, some
12.
What did you have? I'll let some, 13, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. No,
Whatever. You get, okay, so you get the idea. Thank you. Okay. So one of the cool things we get to do at our school is when you start the high school, the last 4 years, we have an opportunity, again, because of the partnership, to sit down and we begin a conversation, and we're making it more formal now. As we're getting better at what we do, we're kind of formalizing the process, because if we're seeing your kids, we're with them, we get to see them, we get to add the perspective to your family's process and thinking. What we're wanting to do is surrounding each kid to call in grandmas and grandpas, to call in friends, to call in family, and then to surround them with words. Look, we've known you your whole life and you're aimed this way. We see it. It's so clear. To have a grandpa look at you as a 14, 15-year-old boy and to say, look, you're a discoverer. Like, I just have known that about you your whole life. Like, you just get interested in stuff and it's who you are. Like, let's put that together. So then what we can do is to just call together the voices, and then we recognize that when we start looking at it, like there's a pathway that the Lord has been creating in your life. And so we can begin to discern that together with 4 years left to kind of hone the final steps of it before they, not that there's ever a final step, but there is a marked independence that happens after high school that we're recognizing. And so we're saying, can we call those things together with some assignments like, hey, go and ask your grandma or your grandpa, go sit down with your parents, sit down with your friends, and you ask them, what are my strengths? What am I working on? What do you think the Lord is wanting me to do? And then they're going to have to do that with their own thoughts. Like, what should I do? I have opportunities. And we can put that stuff together in a little worksheet to say, okay, here's a snapshot of where I am. And then if my snapshot, if I look at my photo album and turn it into a flip book, then it looks like my next step is here. And so we can say, okay, we want to help you get that next step. So can we take the snapshot, turn it into a flip book, and predict what would be the best next step? And so starting in the 9th grade, we have in our heads, and Marcy, please correct me if I'm making up something. We have kind of 3 steps, 3 exit tracks, okay? Because starting in the 9th grade, you have an opportunity to do early college. So we have many 9th graders at this point in our experience that have begun and successfully completed college courses. Okay, it's not beyond their capability. So we want to start them. If that's the goal for you, it's possible by the time you hit the 18 years old to have 60 hours, to have completed an associate's degree. So you're 18, hitting the ground with 2 years of school left, if that's your mission. Or you've gained a lot of valuable experience and then you do something else. So maybe it's college, maybe it's work, or maybe it's some kind of other thing. We'll call it other. Okay, so how we want to start that conversation with you, family by family, student by student, to say, what do you think? Where are we headed? And how can we push for it together? Because we have some flexibility. Our high school requirements are largely satisfied as far as credits by the end of this. So we have 2 years to do something different. Like, you can even have 1 or 2 courses here, and then the rest is full-time college. So you're just mounting hours if that's your aim. Or, you know what, you do your 1 or 2 courses, and then you're just trying to get enough money to get to YWAM. Or you can finally be a trapeze artist, and you've just been waiting for the opportunity to launch into your dreams, you know, so it's whatever. So can we take this 4 years
satisfy the high school requirements because there's a core formation that we're looking for everybody to have, and then aim it a little bit differently for each person as much as we can. So these years are tied in with some opportunity for college. So this year, you're not doing your trapeze artist thing. You're through the 10th grade solid. Then in 11th and 12th grade, there's still some courses that you have to finish, but it's more like a college type feel where you're doing that 1 or 2 or whatever. Or you're just doing full time and you're finishing because you know what, it's fine. I'm just going to be 18 and then go do whatever I'm going to do. So I'm going to finish that. Okay, but we want to just try to map that out together. And so we've looked at different things, and there are ways to do things creatively with college, like CLEP tests. There are several organizations that exist to simply prepare people to take a test, and they'll get 3 college hours, sometimes even for free. For example, there's a group called Modern States, which we've used. As long as you complete their study preparation, they'll give you a voucher and the textbook, everything's free, and they'll give you a voucher to pay for the test. And so you show up and you can get like US History 1 and you never paid anything. That's awesome. Because if you went to UMKC, that class would be $1,000 plus your textbooks. Here, at most, it's like $20 to pay the testing center. That's not bad. So what we've done is we've kind of looked at a few colleges and we've picked out what classes we think would best be satisfied by taking a test. And we said, okay, places like ORU, Oral Roberts University in Oklahoma, or MCC, the community college, they offer online courses for schools that we can manage here underneath their professor, and then those courses are college credit. So I'm in my science class as a 9th grader, and if I choose, I can do the college class, which is still just my science class, and by the time I'm done with that, I'll have science credit. I'll have a chemistry with a lab from ORU, which is some of our students are doing right now. Now, but you don't have to do that, right? This is just an option. I can do some CLEP, I can do some online, and I can do some in person. Some kids are just not going to be good at online school, and that's okay. But there are opportunities at a place like Calvary Baptist. It's an amazing deal. They offer ORU, MCC, and Calvary Baptist. If you're in high school, they give you a tuition break. That's amazing. You're paying like, how much was the course? $310.
Includes the textbook.
That includes a textbook for one course, and that's pretty amazing. So they're giving you these breaks because you're doing early college. So for example, with our oldest, he was our guinea pig, you know, so he started with maybe 50 hours. He started college. And so he ended up saving us something like $50,000, you know, because he's got 2.5 years left. So that's pretty awesome money-wise. And I mean, it just gives you some confidence that you can actually do it because you've already done it, you know, so you're not just like finding yourself. You can figure out, where do I get my ramen, you know, his first semester, while not also figuring out how do I log in and read a book. You know, it's like, okay, we did this and you're okay. So we've kind of mapped out the main classes and what we would suggest and what we're going to manage here at a school, but just saying we can talk about those opportunities in individual meetings.
And some, you know, like say your student wants to go to like Patrick Henry or there's some 4-year Ivy League school or something that's not going to take any CLEP test or.
Yeah, some schools are like, forget all that trash.
Yeah, so
We
then
take
we
our
would
stuff.
say, yeah, so then we would say, okay, if you do know that's where you want to go, let's see what they do require. They're going to look at your application and they're going to look for like what clubs, what things are you involved in, like what's your SAT score, ACT score. So we start filling in the spots in their 11th and 12th grade where they have extra time. They're probably going to need to work a lot to pay for that school, so we get finances in, and they're going to need to do SAT, ACT kind of things to get ready for that. So what we really, and it's not all college, it could be other things that they want to do, and we want to help them do that. And the great thing is, if they don't know, that's fine too. But as a parent, you can say, hey, if you want to, this course that you're gonna take doesn't just count for now, but it counts for later. And you can say, I have a college course and try to get your 42, get an associate's degree before you even graduate high school. And it's okay that you don't know what you want to do with it because you would be taking those courses anyway. And and then you have a year or two to go explore, go to Europe, do whatever, go to what, do whatever you want to do until you do know what you want to do, but you're going to take these courses anyway. So, but they don't have to do those.
No, you can just
offer-
run through the school and finish.
Yeah.
And then you can even be done early. So you just want to get out, then okay, let's help you get out. We had one kid, like she was doing her requirements. She was a senior. And she was just like, no heart in it, but I'm going to be faithful. I'm just going to do it because you're telling me to do it. And like, what do you really want to do? And she's like, I want to go to YWAM like my sister. She had an amazing thing and that's what I want to do. I'm working to earn. She was working a lot.
And her parents wanted her to.
Yeah. And they were excited about no more tuition, so it's like, great. So, I'm just kidding, but not really. But okay, so we helped her. So she's like, look, let's just get your high set exam, which is like the equivalent diploma test. So she like took it in like a week because she's super sharp, passed, and she's like, I'm out. Now I'm working like 50 hours a week to get as much money as possible because I'm going to go to YWAM. And so she did it. And that's fantastic. She just doesn't, she's like, I'm not going to go to college. Okay, you're not going to go to college. That's fine. Let's get you what you're going to do then. Alternative story, another guy graduated early and he's an engineer for the like WAN. What is he? He works for the FAA doing something, making more money than I'll ever make. I'm not bitter about it. It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
So it's like, and he went to a good school for technology and engineering. So there's just different ways whatever you want to go.
And right now with the way that we're doing the college course, like Miss Lisa and Mr. Shaw, like Mr. Shaw, Miss Lisa, so they do these courses and we are helping them decipher, this is what your instructor means. And we're saying the due date is Friday, but you're gonna turn it into us on Wednesday and we're gonna edit it and we're gonna look at it. And that's part of doing dual enrollment. You have to make us look good. If you're not going to make us look good, we're not going to back this thing, So we are like doing the class with them, basically helping them pull it all together and saying like, oh, the professor is saying this, so that's not, you're going to go above and beyond this. So they have the support to know how to do it with confidence and be successful. And we're gonna let you know if they're like, okay, we want to take calculus, and we're gonna say like, they're not ready yet. They have to do this. We're not gonna
Let's
let
practice
them-
with 2/3 and 1/4 still from the. Let's add those up.
So we are trying to, so far, it's been really successful, and we've been able to say like, okay, this is gonna be good, or you're not ready yet, or let's help you get ready. And I feel like they really want to make impact, and it's hard to feel like sometimes like, I'm gonna take this now, and it just doesn't really matter because it's just high school, and then I have to do it again in college, or I really want to be doing this other thing. So it's really fun to get behind them and say, no, we are actually here to help you do what your parents and you, because not just them, we want to back you up, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. You have a whole team of people wanting to help you accomplish what you want to accomplish. And so that's fun because we want to get behind them to do it. We're not, like you said, the drill sergeant. We're on your team. Like, what do you need? We'll go do some research on that so that we can find out what programs around here do that for you. And so it's really fun.
Yeah, you want to be an actuary. He can help you do math and calculate dead people's worth. It's a good job. Huh? That's awesome. Which one? Okay, I don't know. Okay. No, you got to actually know a lot to do that.
A lot.
Okay, that's it. So any questions, we'll be here, and thank you so much. So the next step will be we're going to get an individual thing where we get into the actual what next kinds of things. We just wanted to give you the heart and the road to follow it. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.